So when the West Indies chose to actually bat after winning the toss on day one of the first test of the India-West Indies series, the general consensus was how much time exactly it would take for India to get them out. Because again, this was expected to not only be a very bowler-friendly track, at least in the initial stages, but there was also the expectation that India's bowling unit, boasting, of course, top class players in the vein of Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Siraj, and of course Kuldeep Yadav, would just prove to be far too much for the West Indies team. And that is exactly how it has proven, because here's the thing, here's the innings update for you guys. The West Indies are all out for 162 in 44.1 overs. So hardly really the ideal start for the tour, on which there were anywhere low expectations for them. Let's be frank, no one was expecting the West Indies to come to India and be posing any sort of a major challenge. But even keeping that in mind, this seems to be, well, it's par for course. It's not really a disappointment. It's not even an underperformance to the nth degree. This is just pretty much what you were expecting to happen in this test match, and it is exactly what has happened. So let's quickly run you through how it is the innings went. I mean, Justin Greaves was the top scorer for the West Indies. He ended up getting 32. The other performers then Shea Hope and Roston Chase were top notch. So Hope got 26, Roston Chase got 24. And the top order in the likes of Alec Atanaz, Brandon King, Atanase got 12, King got 13, John Campbell scored 8, and Tej Narayan Chandrapal on his test return gets a duck in 11 balls. Well, that is the nature of the beast. It was what we were expecting, and there was some assistance early on, but later on, it is fair to say that it really came down more to the skill of the Indian bowlers than there being any major assistance from the pitch. In fact, come the second session, it had eased out just a little bit, and batting had become slightly easier. But the West Indies batters were just unable to negate the skill of the bowlers that were in front of them, and I think that was really the key differential factor here. The Indian bowlers, considering that this is, of course, pretty much a first string Indian 11, just proved to be too good for the West Indies team, and that was, to be fair, expected. Let's go through some of those figures. Jasprit Bumrah, whom many were expecting to not even play the series, but who's of course available for both tests, ended with figures of 3 for 42 in his 14 overs. Mohammad Siraj with 4 for 40. By the way, his weight for a fifer in Indian conditions carries on. Kuldeep Yadav got 2 wickets for 25 runs, and the other wicket was taken by Washington Sundar. Now, it's pretty much rounded. Only Nitish Kumar Reddy and Ravindra Jadeja were not in among the wickets in this particular innings. So, a good show really from the Indian batters. It's along expected lines. Now, of course, the onus will be on the Indian batters to bat once, bat long, and ensure that they can actually wrap up the test match in potentially 3 days, really, when you're looking at it. Of course, right now, it's not even technically, you're not even 2 sessions into day one of the first test, and already it seems like the West Indies are very much on the back foot as far as the test match goes, which is again along expected lines. But you can also speculate and say that maybe if they'd chosen to bowl first instead of choosing to bat first, you might have actually done something different. You could have tried something, because no one again was expecting West Indies to actually get a result. This series always seen as something of a free hit for them, because again, away to India, 2 tests, there was never going to be any expectation of them to upset the apple cart. Yes, a lot of Indian fans were understandably a little bit nervous, considering the last home test series you played, you were up against New Zealand, you lost 3-0, you were whitewashed. But again, let's face facts, this is the New Zealand team we're referring to. West Indies not quite on the same level, and honestly, it does seem like, if we're talking about it in a nonchalant manner, even fan interest in the test is at a bare minimum. You're starting the test match on a holiday. Dashera is usually a holiday in most places, particularly in North India, and you really just had absolutely no one in the ground. I mean, we know that the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad has a massive, fan capacity. You have about over a lakh people can fit in. It was nowhere close. In fact, I doubt there were even 1,000 people watching this test match. The stadium looked practically empty. The turnout more resembling of a Ranji Trophy game, a random Ranji Trophy group game, than it did a marquee test series featuring 2 international teams taking part in the World Test Championship. But then that's just, the nature of the beast. No one was expecting anywhere close to big turnouts for the West Indies match. But there's going to be a lot of debates, of course, on whether or not this means that a tier system is necessary in cricket. cricket. We've heard chatter about it, and this is just going to intensify it because the West Indies really have nothing to gain from playing a Test match series with us except for some money. And from a sporting perspective, it does nothing for them. This Test series is basically set up for India to potentially get maximum WTC points, and that's exactly what they look on course to be doing so far. Obviously, this is not going to be, or we were not expecting it to be, a competitive series. And again, that's a debate for another time. As of now, though, the West Indies do have an absolutely major task at hand. Tea has been taken, by the way, and there is going to be a lot of expectations or a lot of an uphill task for them to climb, really, because truth be told, 162 doesn't really give them much unless they can make a few early inroads. The advantage, of course, with this team is that they bat deep. They're batting right down till number 8. So even if you get a couple of early wickets, the number of runs just aren't there to trouble India. So the major question, of course, will be how many runs or what is the kind of lead that India can be taking going into the second innings. Of course, knowing how it is that the Test match could potentially shape up, I think India will look to bat once, bat long, maybe get about 550, 600, more than that, and bat as long as necessary thereafter if they haven't been dismissed by the West Indies bowlers, and then just look to dismiss them quickly in the second innings. Manu John rightly points out in the comments that this is a dead test. Yeah, Manu, I sadly couldn't agree more. I love watching red ball cricket. I love watching Test match cricket, but if it's not evenly contested or even close to being evenly contested, then it can often lead to some very dull viewing, and that sadly is exactly what we've gotten from Ahmedabad so far today. It's not been a fun watch by any stretch of the imagination, and it does seem like the West Indies have been set up for whipping boys or as whipping boys in this particular series. So that is the innings update for you. The West Indies have scored 162 and now been dismissed. It's pretty much along expected lines, really, what they've done. And now you can join us, of course. At the end of the day, we'll see how it is that the Indian team fared in their first innings. The expectation will be that they can get a big innings lead. So how does they go? Well, let's see how it is that that match goes. For now, though, from me, I'll take your leave, but thank you guys so much for joining us. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tap the bell icon, follow us on social media, Instagram, X, and Facebook, and stay tuned, plenty more coming your way. For now, from me, though, it is goodbye.